Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Arcanum of Steamworks and Magick Obscura, Blind. Now, I'm still here in the Great Library of Tarant, and I still have quite a few books to read, so in case you're not interested in that, you can use the timestamps in the description to fast forward to the part where I'm already done, but let me get on with it. Dread armor and its origins. Of the frequency and history of dread armor, or scientific ruminations on the origins of ancient artifacts. Dr. William Wiggin Pens. Actually, that reminds me, the word rumination is kind of weird to me, because it literally refers to the process of chewing. Like if you were to take the word literally, it means to chew something over, and it's actually used in classification of animals. Like there's I don't know the proper English nomenclature, but there's like a group of animals that's referred to as ruminators, because of the way they consume food. I've never really thought about it that much, but recently it's sort of I randomly landed on a Wikipedia page about this type of animal, so that's where I kind of connected the dots. But that's besides the point. Dread armor, what is it? It is not infrequently that a country farmer will be tilling his fields and unearth an old shield whose leather straps are rotted away, but whose metal still shines as the day it was forged. Nor is it none other than commonplace that a city businessman might unearth a helmet with similar characteristics in the dirt of his basement's foundation. These ancient pieces of armor, all bearing the same strange insignia, are found all throughout Arcanum. Over the years, due to the dark and insidious nature of their emblem, they have been given a name, Dread armor. Now, in fact, I myself have found a couple of pieces that were called Dread armor, and it also seems that it's pretty commonly being sold by the merchants in various stores. So, what do we know of this dread armor? Historians from around the world have been researching this enigmatic phenomenon for years. Logic would dictate that an intelligent man, being at the most distinctive... Logic would dictate that an intelligent man begin at the most distinctive feature, the emblem, as in the sentence means that an intelligent man should begin his investigation at the most distinctive feature, the emblem. All dread armor bears the symbol of an eagle with a snake's head. Extensive iconographical research has divulged little in the way of enlightenment concerning this talisman. Various cultures and subcultures over the millennia have taken both the eagle and the snake as their representative symbols, but none in their recorded history have taken them together. Various rumors among the circles less interested in science and more with childishly fantastic have attributed the symbol to what is most often called the Darian Ka, or the Order of the Dead. Such claims are little more than wild speculation, as such a group has never been proven to exist, much less to forge their own armors. In fact, let me stop the book right there. I'm pretty sure I've encountered the symbol of an eagle with a snake's head in the temple of the Darian Ka. It was on the floor, like the floor tiles were displaying it, but I distinctly remember, a winged creature, so that would be the eagle part, but I guess I didn't quite understand, I didn't quite perceive the snake head. But it must be it, because it would connect greatly to this, because the temple was the temple of the Darian Ka, as Torian Kell, one of the undead soldiers that they raised to fight the Molochian hand, has confirmed after I restored him to life. So let me continue. Various experiments upon the metal itself have shown that it has enhanced magical properties. Experts in the field attributed the flows of dark necromancy, as well as minute traces of force and elemental colleges. The exactitude of the armor is unknown, but modern techniques have placed it near to the Age of Legends. Dread armor has been found in almost every part of Arcanum, from the upper reaches of Stonewall Mountains to the Dark Fens. The Honorable Quentin Payne, renowned explorer from the century last, purportedly found a full set of dread armor at one of his forays into the Vendigroth wastes. Perhaps in the future, history will be so kind as to shed some light on this most peculiar mystery. Until that time, we can only guess at the reasons behind the mystery of the dread armor. Okay, that was pretty short, but also kind of pretty interesting, because it shows if it really was forged by the Darian Ka, and it's so commonly found, then it shows that at the time, there must have been a time in the history of Arcanum where the Darian Ka were really far spread and really numerous if they had a need for so much armor for their soldiers. Not to mention, they were probably also pretty powerful if each of those sets of armor is magical, as the book said. So let's continue. The Journal of Henry Dovern. The Journal of Henry Dovern, Esquire. It occurs to me that there is something not quite right in the world these days. When I was a lad, we knew respect for our elders, and for authority too. We knew right from wrong, and which monsters were causing it. Causing what? Causing their wrong? Sometimes the sentences are really weird. I wonder if that's purposefully done to make them more archaic? Or is it just, or maybe they are normal, but I'm just not a native speaker of English, but sometimes I'm pretty confused by the way they are put together. And which monsters were causing it. I guess it must refer to the wrong, right? An orc was an orc, an ogre, and better a sword in each than to worry about where their laggard ancestors came from. These days it seems such common concerns are too mystical for the young rabble-rousers who go about calling themselves scientists or freethinkers. Those blighters wouldn't know free if a mage zapped it into them. Drat and bother now. I'm shouting at my journal. The events of today have left me not quite put out, it seems. Why they should, when the circumstances were so minor, I do not know. Should I ever come back from these pages to reminisce of this day, I will no doubt be puzzled even as to why I was what I was annoyed about. I must therefore order my thoughts and start at the start. Shouldn't it be start at the beginning? Boothby, my loyal retainer, had served me breakfast over the campfire. Looking back on it now, the tea was not as warm as it should have been, and the eggs too runny for my tastes. It was most unusual, considering Boothby's skilled, if someone simple-minded service. Sure signs, perhaps, of a bad day dawning. As the previous pages of the journal state, I was returning from a successful 2-day manhunt for the blackguard Horatio Grimwell, a sorcerer, a cad, and a cheat, who some gossip claimed was known to practice the foulest of necromantic tricks. Needless to say, Boothby and I chased him down and gave him the right proper thrashing he deserved. At around midday, we had returned to our town's outskirts. I don't know about my half-breed servant, but I, for one, was quite looking forward to a long and hot bath. It was as we approached the gates that Boothby pointed out what appeared to be a carnival in one of the nearby fields. I was as curious as the common man, I must admit, so with my ogrish companion in tow, I went to see what all the fuss was about. What I had witnessed there was a shameless display of chicanery. A lackluster mage claimed, I can scarcely write it down here from my own outraged disbelief, to be able to make a large wheel turn through neither magic nor muscle, but through something called science. Sheer nonsense. Granted, the man's wheel did move, thanks to some kind of hissing magical apparatus that was attached to it by means of lengthy belts. But what wonder is there in that? How this technology is any less magical than a necromancer's night work in a cemetery? What makes a whistling wizard more special than a good old-fashioned wand? And as if such shenanigans were not an insult enough, I then overheard some of the youth present engaged in a debate over whether orcs were related to humans. And what next, I ask? Theories that dragons evolved from parakeets? Is that a real word? Or is it some kind of fantasy creature? I would imagine the latter. Or that elves come from the same stock as humans. What grand joke this science thing is. Really, it's quite ridiculous. Why the city guard had not chosen to run the blighters like that, I'll never know. Okay, so I guess this amounts to like a journal of some old mage boomer who doesn't quite understand what technology is and is annoyed because it seems to him that technology is another brand of magic that is trying to trick him into believing things that supposedly are natural but obviously to him are magical, which I find interesting because I feel like it must have been kind of the approach at one point in the real world, right? If you were like maybe not to the degree because obviously in the more modern era most people didn't really believe in magic, but what I'm saying is when the advent of the Industrial Revolution became and then started and then the technology was developing at an ever faster pace, because basically the progress of technology has somewhat of a snowball effect, because the previous discoveries make it so that the next discoveries come on quicker and quicker. I think that some of the more simple people, for example, farmers and whatever, and people who weren't educated, who didn't understand how it works, must have maybe thought that there is something magical to it, or something not quite right. Because actually, that reminds me, I've recently read an old newspaper from like the 1930s about, I believe, Hungarian farmers being annoyed, being convinced that the radio is spoiling their crops or something, and they were tearing down the radio towers because they were convinced that it's bad for them and that it does wrong things to their crops and their farm stock. And in fact, I guess such an approach is not even something that has been eradicated nowadays, because to be honest, that's the exact same attitude that people who, for example, are against 5G, right? Who think that 5G causes tumors or something. That's kind of the similar thing. I guess they are not claiming it to be magic, but they are still opposed to it on the ground of it being new and them not understanding how it works. And in fact, I must say, even though I'm a hard skeptic when it comes to supernatural, and I would consider myself, to be honest, a rather hard materialist in terms of philosophy, because to be honest, I don't even believe souls exist. I think humans, to my understanding, human consciousness is a byproduct of chemical and electrical inner workings of our organism and our brain, basically, mostly. And if you would alter that, you would alter who we are. And in fact, there have been experiments done just like that. So I don't even believe there is a soul, nor anything else outside the physical, really. But as far as my understanding of technology goes, I must admit that I feel quite ignorant, because if you like, obviously, I do not think it is magic. I am convinced that that it is all explained by natural science, but I cannot explain it. I am currently using a computer which, if you asked me to explain how exactly does it work, I have no idea, to be honest. Like, I roughly understand the process of, writing down an image or a sound in a form of a binary sequence of numbers, because basically, as I understand, although I am embarrassed even now to speak about it because it's such a simplistic understanding that I feel bad about admitting to the fact that I know so little. But as I understand, it's basically the sequence of numbers, corresponds to like the position of the different colors as coded as pixels, right? So it creates an image or a movie or something. But if you were to ask me how is that sequence of numbers inscribed on like a what's the word? On the actual circuitry of the computer, and how is it translated into this form which I am now witnessing, I have no idea. And in fact, I've been thinking quite a lot about it when I was considering the possibility of time travel, and I've reached a rather sad and embarrassing conclusion that if I were to be sent back to the past, I would change nothing, because I cannot explain pretty much any of the more advanced technology of today. If I couldn't, I couldn't shift the course of history even by a centimeter, because if somebody asked me how, if I started to tell them about all of the things we have, cars, cameras, internet, everything, computers and the such, if I told them about this and they asked me how does it work, I have no idea. Like, I'm using it every day, but I have no actual working knowledge on how it works, which is kind of embarrassing, actually. But then again, I imagine it is kind of probably true of most people, even if, like, the amount of knowledge there is to be had today is so great that nobody can possess it all. And in fact, I'm quite convinced that even well-educated people can be surprisingly ignorant outside their particular area of expertise. For example, I'm pretty sure your run-of-the-mill doctor, for example, even if he's a very good doctor and he understands a lot about the inner workings of the human body, he probably doesn't understand how a computer works, even though he's using it every day also, to keep records and everything. Because he really doesn't need to, unless you are directly linked with this field in your professional work. Then I guess you don't really need the understanding of it. And in fact, if you tried to understand everything at such a deep level, I feel like it would clutter your mind, and it would be very difficult for an ordinary person, for someone who is not above averagely intelligent, to sort of keep stock of all of this information at once. But despite that, I do feel quite bad about it when I talk about it now. I'm playing this game on a computer that I couldn't explain. Like, I couldn't explain how it works. For me, it just does. But the difference between me and this guy, I guess, is that I'm not I am convinced that there are people who know how it works, and I know, in fact, that if I wanted to know how it works, that there is an abundance of information that I can find on the subject, and it would explain to me step by step. So I am not at all convinced that computers are magic, but I'm just saying I kind of understand where this guy comes from, and once upon a time it probably felt like that to a lot of people. So that was rather fun. Let's continue. Okay. Quirren's poem. Away from the smoke and the crowding I soar, troubled by illness and hunger no more. Goodbye to the city, farewell to the slum, to the forests and fresh air and freedom I come. Behind me pollution and poisonous air, to orcs and the gnomes and the folk who don't care. The Hadrian River, polluted and dead, killed off by the waste that the factories shed. Up upon the rooftops, past all throats of flame, technology chaos, it all looks the same. But they say it's progress and good for us all, but all that I can see is a nightmarish sprawl. Onwards, away, through perpetual gloom, the sun is outdone by the industrial boom. The stars in the sky are obscured by thick smoke, which falls back to the earth and makes everything choke. Much faster I fly, leaving all this behind. I go with a curse for the faults of mankind. True magic remains as the one hope for peace. Not science or steam all this progress must cease. My homeland awaits me, mysterial and fair. The natural beauty of woodland lies there. I just can't explain it if you haven't seen how lovely is living surrounded by green. O people of Tarant, obsessed with your fire, with watching explosions and sparks floating higher, how can this compare with the love lights at night, the amorous males of Simtala in flight? I sit there in my tree, watching nature go by. The love of it all brings a tear to my eye. A curse from my lips as my time here expires. My spell isn't endless, despite my desires. So back to my body's, my soul's image flies, and each time before, a small piece of me dies. I swear by my fathers, your city will pay. The depth grows much larger with each passing day. The stench and the filth this city throws out is something Arcanum would be best without. But there I must stay till my mission's complete. To leave you would mean I am admitting defeat. So now having seen this, you know of my hate. By the time you read this, you're already late. Quirren. I imagine this is probably an elf, right? He is furious about how the progress of technology is destroying nature, and I guess he's almost swearing vengeance against the city of Tarant in particular. I wonder if I will ever, if this is going to become relevant, if I am ever going to meet him or know something else about him or about something he has done. For example, because he strikes me as an eco-terrorist in the making, kind of. Because this is very clearly a threat, right? You know of my hate. By the time you read this, you're already late. This kind of he says about all of those things that he hates about Tarant in particular and about technology in general. So it seems to me like it could foreshadow something, but maybe it's just a flavor piece trying to show you what elves feel about the rise of technology, which in short means that they're rather not happy about it. The life of Anton Fernwiller. The life and times of one Ashton Fernwiller. I have chosen to chronicle my life now for the very simple reason that soon I may no longer be alive, and I have survived all others who might share my tale. Outside this room, the sun sets, and I can see through the window. In the morning, my will shall be tested once more, and possibly for the last time. I would not take part in such dramatics if I did not believe in the inevitability, yeah, right, English is hard, of my demise. But time grows shorter and does not allow for such ramblings of a doomed man. Please take it upon yourself to read the following in your time, as I take it upon myself to finish this narrative in my own time, and that through that bridge my life might find its true meaning. My beginnings were were as unpleasant and dirty as 1,000,000 other urchins crawling along the bottoms of Tarant, and yet somehow special. My father did not exist. My mother never mentioned him. I had never seen him. And all those put to the question would not even repeat the rumors they had heard concerning him. My mother, dear lady, was like no other. In all of my travels, among all of the people that I have met, I have known no one as determined or with such a grace and willpower as my mother. Her loyalty and concern for her only son was matched only by the tenacity with which she approached the rest of her life. She who has imparted to me the importance of education, honor, and above all, truth. Needless to say, my world crumbled at the age of 10 when she was murdered. At that time, I had no idea of her death. She had simply disappeared. It would not be long before life led me in the direction of her true fate, however, and not long until I found out what it was that separated me from those 1,000,000 others I had grown up with on the diseased streets of Tarant. Shortly after my mother's disappearance, and after a 2-week stay at home of an uncle, I was apprenticed at a nearby factory. Apprenticed was the word that appeared on the official papers concerning my sale into slavery by my uncle. Had my mother the opportunity, I am sure she would have wreaked revenge upon the man. In the end, she may have, for his end was a gruesome one. My apprenticeship was amounted to performing all the menial tasks that required a body smaller than those of an average factory worker. When a machine became jammed with an errant chunk of slag, it was my duty to dislodge the offending article. In the larger machines, the jams could occur deep within the bowels of interlocking gears and cogs. These types of errors were the bane of my young existence. From the first day inside the factory, I discovered that I loathed machines. The thought of traveling within one to effect repairs never ceased to make me sick. There was one such a jam that occurred not 2 weeks after my inception into the factory. I was called away from sweeping up, still burning flakes of metal spewed by one noisy machine at the side of the factory, to the jam, which by the wails of the supervisor must have been obstructing the operation of a crucial piece of machinery. By the time I had arrived at a panel near the base of the machine, the panel was removed and was apparently the entrance I was to use to find and clear the obstruction. On hands and knees, I reluctantly crawled into the belly of the beast at the unkind insistence of the supervisor. I hated him as much as the oily mechanisms he presided over. I shuddered as I entered the machine. This was the smallest space I had ever been in. The metal that entombed me sent shivers down my spine by virtue of its sheer metallicness. Overheated gears interlocked, and had the machine been operational, would have been a sure death had I come in contact with any of their surfaces. All around me oil dripped in dirty rivulets down the floor, where they gathered in puddles. I slogged along, soaking my clothes in oil, but I could not find the source of the obstruction. The thick odor of bare metal assaulted me as I crept along, making me dizzy and physically nauseous. Then, past many gears, hoses, and metallic pumps and regulators that I could only guess at the function of, I found the source of the problem. As some sort of a nest of sorts was formed in front of me, of metal strands crisscrossed seemingly haphazardly. From this nest came hoses of every length and thickness, many of which were dripping their contents through invisible leaks in the lines. Above the nest was one giant gear from which many others received their motion. I could only assume that the nest was concerned with driving the central wheel, although how this could be accomplished is a mystery to me. The problem appeared to lie within the large gear above the nest. A bracket that had held the hose was lying on the floor, while the hose itself had been swung into the path of the gear, where it was now bound between the large gear and one of the smaller feeding gears. How the gears had not simply cut through the hose I could not ascertain, but there was no fluid sipping from the affected hose, so it appears as though I might be able to continue its original function. Of course, the hose could not work, nor could I retreat from the metal tomb before I had alleviated the jam. Mastering what courage I could, I willed myself to reach forward and pull the hose out of the gears. Then, that is what happened. That is when it happened for the first time there, in the mechanical heart of one of the largest machines in the factory. As I reached forward to take the hold of the hose, the gears began shifting on their axes, and the hoses and wires made slight retreats from my overstretched hand. I convinced myself I was only imagining things, and continued to reach for the offending hose. When my flesh came into contact with the metallic sheathing on the hose, the entire machine retched. The gears no longer shifted on their axes, but began to quake violently. Bolts and screws securing lines began to slip in their shifts and separated themselves from their points of attachment. The machine had been shut down before I was called in, but now, as I stood in fear, clutching the shaking hose lodged between the gears, the beast rumbled once or twice and then gave a tremendous shudder. With that shudder came the surprise ejection of the line I was holding. As it recoiled, it hit me in the face with enough force to throw me away from the now vibrating nest of cables. The large gear let out a sickly grind at the same moment it threw back the hose and spun wildly. A sudden pain brought my attention to my wrist. A perfect rectangle of red now occupied the area below my hand, and in the moments before the blood walled to the surface, I could see the bloodlines that normally resided beneath the wrist unscathed, but open into the air. Apparently, when the great gear resumed its duty, it caught that rectangle of my flesh and took it for itself. Had the line not thrown me backwards, the rest of my body would have joined in its spinning gears. Now the machine was alive around me. A deep penetrating hum permeated the air, and the rotating gears warned against the slightest misstep. I quickly turned and made my way back to the opening, carrying my wounded wrist against my side. The opening I had entered through was in my sight when something grabbed me from behind, and I fell to the ground. As a slow-moving gear had caught the hem of my oil-soaked tunic, it was pulling me towards it. Striking out in panic, my hand has found purchase on the shaft in front of me, and I pulled with all of my strength, attempting to free myself from the gear's grasp. With a rip, the gear finally let go, content with the large part of my tunic it had ripped off. Short-breathed and white-faced, I staggered towards the opening. When I reached the panel and crawled outside, I was greeted with a swift cuff by the supervisor that sent me back sprawling to the ground. "Damn it, boy, you weren't supposed to turn it on. What do you think you're doing?" bellowed the supervisor. The first outburst was followed by another fist to the back of my head. "Chief, the machine, she's working." "He did all right. We can get back on schedule now." "We'll make the shipment, Chief." A suit-faced engineer had interrupted the supervisor's tirade on my behalf. "Get up, boy. In my office, now." Being a boy of 10, I did not question the supervisor's order, but quickly ran to his office. As my apprenticeship was a misnomer, so was the supervisor's office. Through the rear of the factory, down 2 long corridors and beyond 3 doors, one finally came to a small bare room. Lined with rotting planks, the room had a very disagreeable odor to it, the same odor that hung about the supervisor. Another rotting wood formation served as a desk, and scattered about the floor were remains of food and other things I dared not consider to identify. I put myself in one of the cleaner corners and sat down to wait for my supervisor to arrive. I looked at my wrists. It was surprisingly clean. What blood had come to the surface had stayed within the area of the wound and had made a light scab already. Near the edges of the rectangles of the pink skin near the edges of the rectangle, tinges of pink skin could have been seen creeping back under the scab. I was arrested from my inspection by the opening of the door to the room. The supervisor stormed in, slamming the door behind him, and he sat down at his desk in a flurry. The rotted wood shattered, but seemed to hold his weight. I remembered being disappointed at that fact. He was a large man, a human to be sure, but a vertically large man, as well as horizontally. He thrived on using his stature to intimidate those around him, which was one of the reasons I loathed him so much. He did not keep a beard, although I could doubt he could have chosen to. The hair on his head was wispy as best, although he tended to comb it such that it appeared larger than it was. His clothes, a simple though ill-fitting cotton shirt and leather breeches in danger of losing their ability to encompass the man at any moment, were perpetually covered in stains and offal of not only the factory, but from his exceedingly poor personal habits. You little puke, where do you get off pulling stunts like that? You know damn well that that's the most expensive machine we've got here, and you're running around the inside, playing like a redeemed orc in a mid-locker. Sorry, sir, came my abashed response. Even now, so many years later, I can find no positive side to this man, or pity for his eventual fate. Boy, you might have just broke the machine out there. It works right now, but in the morning, who knows? If that machine doesn't work, boy, I lose my job. I don't like not having a job. A snarl crept into his voice. Ever since you got here, things have been breaking. Things I got an answer for. I took a step backwards. My breath caught in my throat. The air felt slick. I don't plan on losing my job on account of some scrap kid neither. It became harder and harder for me to breathe. The air was so thick. Boy, do you know what this is? He pulled open a desk drawer and produced a metallic instrument. He held the low end, wrapping his hand around the wooded portion, and looked over the tube that extended from the rough cylinder. No, sir. It's a gun. I hate that word. Now, I had an agreement with your uncle, boy. I can't just toss you out. Not while you're breathing, anyway. Okay, this is... I was expecting him to get fired for it, because not only he is crippled now, but I wasn't... but it's even turning even darker than I thought, because I thought he would be fired and crippled, but it seems he was crippled first, and now he's going to get killed, possibly. Although I guess he couldn't have gotten killed because he has written this memoir after, so I guess it will have to stop at the threats of being killed, which is still pretty horrible, and he still might get fired. Not while you're breathing, anyway. My vision began to dim as I struggled to take in the thickening air. Through a haze, I saw a twisted grin split the supervisor's face, and the barrel of the gun swung in my direction. Then my breath failed me. I could no longer inhale. The supervisor looked as if he has felt it too. His rant, to which I had been listening for less and less, ceased, and the only sounds that emanated from his direction were the inarticulate gurgles. His gun has lowered as well, forgotten now. The air continued to thicken, and took a dark hue of blue. You, gasped the supervisor in my direction. This is your... He ceased his attempt to accuse me, and raised the gun to do his talking. Wait, why is it the end? I wanted to... Damn it. Okay, I would like to read another part of the story, because, to be honest, it was pretty interesting to me, but also pretty horrible, because basically what I guess it was supposed to show me was the horrible realities of child labor, right? Which, incidentally, all the things that were described actually happened in real life, because it was exactly as the book itself said. Back when it was still legal to employ children in factories, they would have often been given jobs that specifically required small stature, right? For example, in the mines, they crawled into tunnels that were too small for adult men to crawl into. And I would imagine in factories they could have been given such orders as the boy in the book, which is to remove some obstacle that has blocked the machine, and the space was being too small for an adult man to pass through. And in fact, I would imagine the exact same thing to what the ending was alluding to might have also occurred. Like, probably not even might have. It did. It literally did, because in the times of the Industrial Revolution, such things as health insurance or something like that, it didn't exist. So it could very well happen that you were crippled in your line of work because there was no safety regulations, and then the next day you were already fired because you were unfit to work, right, on behalf of your injury. And on top of all of that, you could have very well been a kid at the time, because, like, I don't have an exact timeline in my head, but I would imagine you could be as young as 10 as well, and work in a factory or like in a mine or something. So that's pretty horrible, actually, to consider that, this is a fantasy game, so it is horrible to me, even within the confines of this fantasy universe, but it's even more horrible when you consider the fact that all of this pretty much happened in the real world to actual people. So, I'm kind of glad we're past that, at least in the West, because obviously child labor still happens in the world overall. Probably not to such an extent as it did in the past, but still. Okay. Now, my quest is taking me to Caladon, because I need to find a copy of the Horror Among the Dark Elves, and the book, and supposedly the last copy of the book exists, is owned by Mr. Victor of Misk, who lives in Caladon. So let me try and locate Caladon on my map. Aha, there it is. The path is blocked. You must locate either a bridge, a pass, or a means of transportation in order to travel to this destination. So I guess I need to get to the other side of the mountains first, and then travel down, which actually brings me to the mention of Stillwater, because I have some business there. I need to return the Great Ruby of Kaluru to a halfling who lives in Stillwater. So I am going to do that, and then get past Hardin's Pass and try to get to Caladon. Greetings. I have the Great Ruby of Kaluru. Oh, well done. I had great hope that you were capable, he mumbles. It was about time someone was. Please let me have it. Here you go. I actually found it quite simple to retrieve. It is true, the demons that the book warned me about were far weaker than I anticipated. Although, to be honest, it's probably better if I overstate the amount of danger, because maybe that will convince him to make the reward greater, and if I say it was easy, then he will say, oh, then you probably don't need such a high reward, right? Here you are. This was quite a task. Oh, it's everything I recall it to be. You truly are a brave soul. He takes a moment to gaze at the beautiful bauble. Oh yes, forgive my distraction. You truly are a great adventurer. Here is the 1500 coin I promised. Thank you. May the gods bless you on your journey. No, thank you. I bid you farewell. Okay, so that was pretty easily earned 1500 gold, if I ever saw one. So let me continue on my way to the other side of the mountains. Okay, let's travel to Harden's Pass, and then I'm going in such a roundabout way to explore the area, because maybe I will, you know, happen across one of those additional locations. Wait, is there no passage through the river? Okay, that's kind of problematic, to be honest, because how am I supposed to... Maybe I need to discover an actual bridge, you know, on it. So let me go by the banks of it. Maybe I can discover a bridge or like a shallow place, you know, a river... What is it called? A ford, basically. Because if there is no bridge or a ford or something like that, then I can't travel into this area at all, which is kind of interesting. Ah, I guess I can't have more waypoints, so let's have this for now. See if I can discover anything along the way. Just some wolves. More wolves. If there is no passage, then I don't know how else can I get through. Maybe I need to discover another path through the mountains, so I will travel alongside them. Okay, more wolves. I actually still need to find some wisps for one of the elves in Quintarra. She said I can encounter them in the Glimmering Forest, so maybe I will come across them in one of those random encounters. Is there literally nothing in this huge swath of land? That's kind of disappointing. Okay, so it seems there is indeed nothing. No bridge or a ford or any kind. That's kind of annoying. Again, I'm choosing such a roundabout way because maybe I will discover something that's worthwhile. So I guess what I'm going to do now is travel back here and continue from over here to go along the mountains to maybe find another pass. So I have to somehow get through Caladon, right? Maybe I can get through here? Doesn't look like it unless I have too many... Unless I have too many of those waypoints. Okay, that's probably enough. I wouldn't mind encountering the wisps, by the way. So hopefully that might still happen. Oh, stop. Okay, I guess I have to cancel all of this if I want to travel here, but I do. You hear shouts and whip cracking. Okay, let's travel here. Garbonzo, the monkey trainer. Okay, he just straight up attacks me, I guess. I guess I heard the whip cracking because he was trading them, right? And using the whip to discipline them. Do I even need turn-based? Okay, he had a rusty sword. Is there anything worthwhile in here? An arcane chest. Oh, okay. It's okay. And the diamond ring. They're probably going to be rather valuable. So I don't mind that at all. Let me continue. I guess maybe on the shore. I will see if there's something there. Okay. If I don't find any other paths, then I'm not quite sure how am I supposed to even reach Caladon? Like, from what I remember, I wasn't told, because it's not a quest I've been given, it's just that I've read that the copy, like it is a quest, but it isn't a quest I've been given by someone. I've just read in a book that the last copy of the Horror Among the Dark Elves is in Caladon. But obviously the book assumed I would know how to get to Caladon, and I kind of don't. Apparently no one escapes the Molochian hand. You would be sorry you found me. Well, so much for the Molochian hand. For now, I guess, at least, because they are nothing if not persistent. Yeah, no one escapes the Molochian hand, apparently. I think they would have either given up at this point, or at least joined with each other, right? Because it's kind of pointless that they try to ambush me in groups of 3 instead of trying to ambush me in a group of 300. Because I'm not going to lie, if you were to sum up all of the encounters, it might well add to more than 100 at this point. So that's not even a joke. It's literally their numbers go into 100. Oh, I've discovered something. Razor's Point, Sheep's Fear, these treacherous waters that must be passed to navigate around the tip of Arcanum. Okay, but is it an actual location? Like, am I there? Is there anything here? Oh, there is. There is like a bunch of shipwrecks, which I guess makes total sense, because, okay, this is food. Because if this is a notoriously tricky spot to navigate, then there would be a lot of shipwrecks around it. A bunch of wine. A bunch of water. But I must say, the loot is not particularly interesting. A bunch of swords. Oh, a bunch of healing potions. I can give those to Virgil, because they don't work that well on me, because I don't have a magical aptitude, but he does. Fancy dress, ladies' boots, perfume. Okay, I will take the perfume because it might be used for a quest, or maybe for some crafting as well. I wonder, maybe I can walk around it, like manually. Okay, I will take the poison and I will take the arrows, because Varomon might actually use them. I will give the potions to him. Wait, is he drinking them on the spot? Or was I? Am I insane? Wait. Could have sworn when I right-clicked with Virgil, it gave it to him. It seems he is drinking them on the spot, but I'm not sure why. His health is full, so that seems stupid. But oh well. Princess Aria. Princess Aria's amulet. Okay, that seems important. To Aria, my love, Prince August Farad. But the Princess of what? So obviously, that seems like an important quest item, and I would presumably need it eventually, right? But I don't know where to turn with it, so I guess I will have to keep it for now, and hopefully later, when I get the quest to find her, I will already know I will already have it. But that doesn't quite answer my question on how should I actually get to Tarant. I guess I can ask Virgil, because he has a special voice line when you ask him what are you supposed to do now, right? I suppose he's unique among the characters as far as this goes. He's supposed to act as your guide of sorts. Where is he? Speaking of the devil. Okay, let's ask him.
What is it that you want of me?
I have a few questions.
What can I answer for you?
What do you think we should be doing now?
We need to find Caledon. Sorry to say, I don't know where it is. Down south somewhere?
I do know where it is, I just don't know how to get there. Because I can't travel along the shore, which is weird. And I didn't discover any kind of a pass. Oh, I just remembered something. I might be able to book a ship to Caledon, because obviously it is a port city. It is located on the shore. And when I was in Blackroot, there was a bunch of ships. And when I talked with the captain, I said, can I book a passage on the ship? And he said, to where? And my character said, I don't know. And he laughed at me for being stupid. So maybe now I can say I want passage to Caledon specifically, and he will take me there. So let me travel to Blackroot and check. It's not going to hurt, and in any case, I don't really have a better alternative, because I don't know what else to do, to be honest. But I'm going to check that next time, because this episode has been long enough, so I'm going to save here and end it for now. That's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!